PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And on this edition, we are going to be doing a player profile, and we are going to be talking about a new member, a person who has just joined your Vegas Golden Knights, and somebody who is going to be here for the long haul, someone who's going to be a long-term player on the top six for your Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, I am talking about Tomas Hertl, and this is going to be a really good video doing a player profile and really showing you how Hertl came from where he started back in the day to where he is now. And I will have to say, I do have to give a lot of credit and a shout out to PRConnectionsRadio.com, a voice of new media. This has been a fantastic event, and I recommend to everyone watching all around the world, go to PRConnectionsRadio.com, check out the network and all of the amazing shows we have on here, including Vegas Hockey Hub. They also have a social media account on all major platforms, so I recommend going on there at PR Connections on YouTube, and then on other social media sites, it is at PR Connections Radio. And if you want to follow your host, I also write down here on social media at Ian J. Rachiele. So getting into this episode and doing this player profile, talking about Tomas Hertl, and this is a guy who, at the beginning, and when you kind of just look at it from a 50,000 foot, when you look at it from a certain point of view, this is a situation where when you have a guy like Tomas Hertl, he doesn't seem like that big of a deal when you really don't know what's going on. But when you examine it, when you get closer and closer and closer to the details, and you really see the stats and everything that he has done throughout his career, Tomas Hertl has been one of the best consistent players we have had in the NHL, and someone who has become a solid member of the NHL, will be part of the Vegas Golden Knights for the foreseeable future. And this is going to be interesting because Tomas Hertl, for the people who don't know about him, let me give you a brief recap on who he is. So for Tomas Hertl, this is a guy who was born, out there when it comes to the Czech Republic. He was out there in Prague. And when it comes to Tomas Hertl, this is somebody who he played out there in the EHL. Now, for someone who does not know what the ELH is, I will explain to you what that is. The ELH, which is the Czech Extraliga, this is the top league. This is actually the top tier of hockey out there in the Czech Republic. And when it comes to Tomas Hertl, he played for the under-18 team. He played for the under-20 team when he's just starting out and getting good. But then in 2010, 2011, all the way until 2012, 2013, he would end up being part of the top tier of the Czech Republic. And when it comes to Tomas Hertl, this is a guy who throughout his entire junior run, this is someone who over there in the Czech Republic, his best season was in 2010, 2011. While playing for the under-20 team, he had 14 goals, 41 points, and around 50 penalty minutes in just under 35 games. So for Tomas Hertl, he really showed that he could have some good up-and-coming stuff happening with the Czech Republic and the Czech Extraliga. Now, in 2011-2012, he moves on after that really solid 2010-2011, and in 38 games that year, he has 12 goals and 25 points. So it was down a little bit from what he did the year before, but keep this in mind. In 2010-2011, he was playing for the under-20 team, which is the league underneath the Czech Extraliga. And then in 2011-2012, he's playing in the ELH. So this is the top Premier League. So him scoring a dozen goals and 25 points in his first full-time season playing top-tier hockey in the Czech Republic, that's pretty solid for him. And then in 2012, 2013, in 43 games that year in his final season playing in the Czech Republic, he would have 18 goals and 30 points in that season. And then he would move on, and they actually would go to the playoffs that year, and his team would actually go on, and they would make it to the semifinals. And in those 11 games, he would have 5 points. So he had 5 points. That was really solid there with Tomas Hertl. Once again, I use all of these stats from either Hockey Reference or Elite Prospects. Man, they have such a great database. I always use them. And when it comes to Tomas Hertl, this is someone who out there in the Czech Republic, he really showed that he could be a really solid member of the ELH. So this is someone who at a young age, I mean, he's not even 21 years old yet when this is happening, but yet he was really kind of supplementing himself and really planting himself as a good future guy who could eventually move over to North America. Now, before he declares for the NHL draft, before he moves on and goes to North America, here was his official stats in the ELH, in this Czech Extraliga. And in those 3 years, those 3 seasons he played there, he had 30 goals, 55 points, and a little under 40 penalty minutes in 82 career games, playing in the highest level of hockey in the Czech Republic. So after a successful tenure of playing in the Czech Republic, he would be drafted in the first round of the 2012 NHL draft. He would go 17th overall to the San Jose Sharks. Now, despite this being in 2012, one of the weakest NHL drafts we have had in recent memory. I mean, after all, the first overall pick was a guy named Nail Yakupov, who anybody who knows anything about hockey, Yakupov really did not pan out at all. But there actually was some really good players taken in 2012, some really good quality guys. You had defensemen like Morgan Riley, Hampus Lindholm, Matt Dumba, Jacob Trouba, for example. They were out there on the defensive end. And then when it came to the forwards, you had bruisers like Tom Wilson. You had Philippe Forsberg. You had guys, for example, like Teuvo Teravainen. But one of the best players that was taken around the time period of Tomas Hertl, 2 picks after him, was Stanley Cup championship winning goaltender Andrei Vasilevsky. So even though it was top heavy and it was actually weak when it came to the top 10, 11 through 19 had banger after banger after banger. And Tomas Hertl going 17th overall to the San Jose Sharks. That's a really solid job there. And by the way, very funny moment, but there is 2 additional players who were drafted in the 2012 NHL draft who ended up being a part of the Golden Knights organization. 4th overall, Griffin Reinhart, who was selected by the Golden Knights in the 2017 NHL expansion draft. He really did not spend any time playing in the NHL. He was on the opening day roster in 2017, but did not do much outside of that. And then 8th overall, you had Derek Payot, who was a defenseman who eventually spent time playing in the Henderson Silver Knights organization and then had a cup of coffee in Vegas around 2011, around 2021, 2022. So that 2012 NHL draft, there are a few guys who were either really good and established themselves and or made pit stops in the Vegas Golden Knights organization, and Tomas Hertl was definitely a part of that. So after being drafted by the San Jose Sharks, he would not be going over to North America just yet, as he would be participating in the World Junior Championship for Team Czech Republic. Now, to set the tone here, he was at the World Junior Championship 3 years in a row, in 2011, 2012, and 2013. And with Tomas Hertl, this is somebody who, when he's playing for the Czech Republic in 2011, he's playing for what they call the under-18 team. So they have the World Junior Championship, which is normally the under-20 team, and then you have the under-18 team, which is just below it. So in 2011, he plays for the under-18 team, and he has only 1 point in 6 games. The next year, in 2012, he goes onto the main roster. He's actually, I think, the youngest guy on that team in 2012 for the World Junior Championship, but he averages under 8 points per game, 5 points in 6 games in the World Junior Championship in 2012. And then in 2013, he would replicate that in his final season playing for the World Juniors for the Czech Republic, 5 points in 6 games. Now, the Czech Republic, unfortunately, would not get a medal. They would not finish on the podium for the World Junior Championships, as they would actually finish 5th, and 8th, respectfully, in those tenure. Now, for Tomas Hertl, in 18 career games playing for the World Juniors, he would have 11 points for the Czech Republic. So overall, not bad for him. Now, when it came to the Czech Republic, this would not be the last time he would be on the team Czech Republic, but this would actually be a very interesting note for him, as on the World Juniors, he would actually play with 2 former Golden Knights, as Tomas Nosek and Tomas Hertl are 2 guys who were on the original roster back in 2017 with the Vegas Golden Knights, and they just so happened to play for the team Czech Republic in the World Juniors alongside Tomas Hertl. So if you haven't picked up on the theme now, people with the first name Tomas is very common with the Vegas Golden Knights. You had Nosek, you had Hertl, and then you even had, for a brief moment in 2017-2018, Tomas Tatar. So yeah, the name Tomas has been a reoccurring name with the Vegas Golden Knights over time. But when it came to the Olympics and when it came to playing for the Czech Republic, I did say that this would not be the last time he would be on there. As a matter of fact, in 2013, he would actually be on the roster for the Czech Republic for the actual World Championship. However, he was the youngest player on that roster, and then he got injured in 2013 in real life in the NHL. So he had to miss in 2013. However, the next season, Tomas Hertl would be on the active roster, and he would play in the World Championship for Czech Republic, and he would have an incredible World Championship run with the Czech Republic, as Tomas Hertl would score 6 points, 3 of them being goals, in 9 games in the International Ice Hockey Federation World Championship, and he would actually help the Czech Republic finish 4th, so just outside the podium for 2014. And really good for Tomas Hertl, but how did he do in the NHL, right? I've talked about what he did leading up to it, playing in juniors, playing in the Czech Republic. Well, then I talked about his Olympic run. I talked about his international run. I talked about what he did during the Czech Republic while being in the World Junior Championship and then the World Championship. So how did Tomas Hertl do once he moved on and played in the NHL? Well, in 2013-2014, Tomas Hertl, he would play in his first ever season playing in the NHL, and he would actually make a really good impact for the San Jose Sharks, as at age 19, he would be a teenager suiting up for the San Jose Sharks, and he would actually score. Funny enough, he would score in his second game of his career, which is absolutely insane to think about. Tomas Hertl, in his second career game, would score his first NHL goal, but that would not be it. As in that exact same game against the Arizona Coyotes, against Mike Smith, he would score not one, but then he would score a second goal in that game. So not only would Tomas Hertl make his debut against the Vancouver Canucks on the opening day roster, but then in the second game of the season in his career, he would have a 2-goal performance for San Jose. So Tomas Hertl was really displaying a really solid upcoming situation, and he actually would even make more of a name for himself, as the NHL would name Tomas Hertl Rookie of the Month in October, as he would have 11 points in 13 games. Once again, this is all from NHL.com using the archives here. So this would be a really good situation for Tomas Hertl. It seemed like he was really kind of cementing himself and really becoming a really solid member of the San Jose Sharks. But then something bad would happen with Tomas Hertl, as in December, while playing the LA Kings, he would end up injuring his knee after colliding with Dustin Brown. And because of that, he had to have MCL surgery on his right knee, and he would be out for a while. Now, the reason why I mention this is not just because he had to miss in 2013, he had to miss the World Championship for the International Ice Hockey Federation World Championship and the roster that he was on, but it also delayed the momentum that he had. Like I said, the first month of the year, he had 11 points in 13 games. He was on a solid run in his rookie season leading into that injury. Now, he would come back in the middle of April, and he would play 37 games that season, and he would end up having 15 goals and 25 points in his rookie season. So despite that number, 25 points, let's not get it confused here. Those 25 points are solid once you remember that he scored 11 of those points in the first month of the year. If he hadn't been missed, and he wouldn't have been missing months out of the year to get MCL surgery on his right knee, Tomas Hertl would have had way more than 15 goals and way more than 25 points in his rookie season. So that's the context there. So even though he has 25 points, I have to mention the actual reference here, and that's the fact that he had 25 points in only 37 games due to an injury that he suffered. Now, Tomas Hertl would come back around April, and he would actually play in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time in his career. As the 2014 Stanley Cup Finals, he would not be there, but in the 2014 Stanley Cup playoffs, the San Jose Sharks would make it, and Tomas Hertl would be on the roster. He'd be skating around, and he would even score 2 goals in 2014 for the San Jose Sharks, but they unfortunately would be eliminated in 2014, as the San Jose Sharks would be in the first round, and they would get upset by the LA Kings, who eventually went on to win the Stanley Cup that year. So, after a really good rookie season, Tomas Hertl would be looking to kind of rebound and make a really solid statement in the second year. Let's also keep in mind that this is also the same Tomas Hertl who in that second season has really become a top 6 forward for the San Jose Sharks. You have Joe Thornton, you have Patrick Marleau, but you also have Joe Pavelski, Logan Couture, and you have Tomas Hertl on that top 6 there. In 2014, in 2015, he would play when it came to the 2014-2015 season, and he would suit up in every single game. He would not miss any time. He would be dependable, and because of that, he would have over a dozen goals and 31 points in 2014-2015. And even though the San Jose Sharks would not make the playoffs, they would still find use for Tomas Hertl. So after the San Jose Sharks would be eliminated, he would have a short stint in the AHL, as he would play 2 games for the Worcester Sharks out there in 2015, and he would actually average a point per game, 2 assists, 2 points in 2 games. So after that second season, that sophomore year, where he's gaining his confidence, where he's getting respect in the locker room, and he's really becoming a solid player in the NHL, Tomas Hertl, at the age of 22, he would have a breakout season in 2015-2016. As not only would Tomas Hertl play in all but 1 game that year with the San Jose Sharks, but he would have over 20 goals for the first time in his career, register 25 assists for the first time in his career, and he would have 46 points for San Jose. Now, not only would he be doing this with the San Jose Sharks, but he also would be helping them come the Stanley Cup playoffs, as the San Jose Sharks would make it all the way to the Stanley Cup finals. They would lose to the Pittsburgh Penguins, but man, oh man, Tomas Hertl would be a major factor in that 2014, 2015, and then eventually now 2016 Stanley Cup playoffs. As in the 2016 Stanley Cup playoffs, he would have 6 goals, 11 points in 20 games that postseason. So let's just think about that for a minute. Tomas Hertl, already in his career, this is somebody who has already been playing in his second postseason in the NHL, and he's at the age of 22. Could you imagine how well he would be doing for the rest of his career? There's so much upside with Tomas Hertl. There's only going to be so much to go better and better and better. Now, 2016, 2017, there's not much to note here. He only played 49 games that year. He had 22 points. Now, they did make the playoffs in 2016, 2017, but the San Jose Sharks would not make it back to the Stanley Cup Finals, as the San Jose Sharks in 2016, 2017, they would get bounced by the Edmonton Oilers in the first round. So in 2017, 2018, he would get back to what he did in 2015, 2016, having 22 goals for the second time in his career and getting over 45 points for the second time in his career. Now, Tomas Hertl would play in 10 playoff games in the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs. He would actually score 6 goals in 10 games. But a quite ironic twist, Tomas Hertl and the San Jose Sharks would get bounced in the second round by our Vegas Golden Knights. But there's a little bit of twist on there. We'll get back to that in a minute. So in 2018, he gets bounced by Vegas. So in 2018, 2019, he would go on to have the best season of his entire career. In 2018, 2019, Tomas Hertl, he would play in 77 games that season, but he would register 35 goals, a little under 40 assists for 74 points. This is, and has been at this point, the best season statistically for Tomas Hertl. He would also, in 2018-2019, he would help out the San Jose Sharks come playoff time, as in 2019, he would have 10 goals in 19 games. He would help eliminate the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round, kind of getting a bit of revenge for what happened the year before. And then in the second round, the San Jose Sharks would eliminate the Colorado Avalanche before being eliminated by the Gloria of the St. Louis Blues in the Western Conference Finals. So Tomas Hertl, at this point, you're 25 years old. You just came off a 74-point season. How would you be rewarded for that, right? How would you end up being rewarded with that situation? Well, after that season, the San Jose Sharks would give Tomas Hertl a 4-year contract extension. And this would actually be the first big boy contract that he would get in his career. Not the last one, obviously, but the first one for Tomas Hertl. As after that stellar performance, they would end up giving him that 4-year contract extension, and it would end up becoming a 4-year deal worth $22 million. And it actually would come with a no trade clause in his contract. So overall, you have a guy in Tomas Hertl who is actually getting around $5.5-6 million, his total salary in that contract extension. So overall, that is a solid opportunity by Tomas Hertl. And this is someone who went from being on an entry-level deal to then making a little bit of money in his second contract to now making his big boy contract getting that 4-year deal by the San Jose Sharks. But this would not be the end of it, as in 2019-2020 and in 2020-2021, the San Jose Sharks, he would end up having 16 goals and 19 goals, respectively, in those 2 years. He would actually make it around 35, 40 points both of those years. However, that was during COVID, and I always kind of put an asterisk around those 2 years. Because if you had a great season, then you always have to wonder if they played the entire season, how great you would have been. Whereas if you struggled a little bit, considering the outside world and everything that happened, were you off your game there? So, in 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021, Tomas Hertl, he was still solid, but he didn't have the numbers he did in 2018, 2019. In 2021, 2022, he would have his second best season of his career, registering 30 goals in 82 games, playing the entire season, and he would have 64 points. Now, not only would he have the second most points for the San Jose Sharks, but he would get a brand new contract after those 4 years are up. And my, oh my, did Tomas Hertl get a brand new contract. As in 2022, in that offseason, the San Jose Sharks would give him a 8-year deal worth $65 million. Now, the first 2 seasons, he would make a total salary of 8.25, then he would make 10, and then the following 5 years, he would make 10, 8, 6, 6, 6. This is very important for later, by the way. There's also the same contract with Tomas Hertl that came with a no movement clause. And by the way, if you're trying to figure out how that worked, yeah, don't worry, I'll get there in a second. So in 2022, 2023, he would end up having another consistent year, scoring 63 points and 22 of them being goals for San Jose. So in 21-22, 64 points. 22-23, 63 points. He's earning that money right now. But 2023, 2024 would be the final season in San Jose. He would only score 15 goals in 48 games for the San Jose Sharks. However, around the March trade deadline, the San Jose Sharks would put him on the trade block. And despite him being injured with a ACL injury, the San Jose Sharks would find a suitor to trade for Tomas Hertl. And since you're watching this video on Vegas Hockey Hub, I think you can kind of put the pieces together and figure out who traded for him. As on March 8th, 2024, the San Jose Sharks would trade Tomas Hertl to your Vegas Golden Knights for a former first-round pick in David Edstrom and a future first-round pick that will be going to San Jose. And with Tomas Hertl, this is going to be an interesting situation to see how he performs with this situation. So, with Tomas Hertl, this is his final stats in the NHL. At this point in time, Tomas Hertl, 218 goals. Wow. 266 assists that combined for 484 points. He also had done all of this in over 700 career NHL games. So, in terms of value, Tomas Hertl's done an incredible job. It's also the same Tomas Hertl who has been not a one-time, but a two-time NHL All-Star, as he represented the San Jose Sharks in 2020 and in 2024 at the NHL All-Star Game. And I also have to mention, in 2022, Tomas Hertl won the bronze medal with the Czech Republic in the International Ice Hockey Federation World Championship. So for Tomas Hertl, he made it to a Stanley Cup final, he's been a two-time All-Star, and he's won a bronze medal when it came to Team Czech Republic. Overall, a very successful career with Tomas Hertl. And I do have to mention to everyone watching all around the world, I appreciate everybody who has watched this episode here on Vegas Hockey Hub, doing our player profile on Tomas Hertl. And until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Continue watching this on PR Connections Radio. I want to say thank you to Guy, Dana, and everyone behind the scenes who is working hard on PR Connections Radio. And until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And continue watching hockey. Go support junior hockey. And go, Knights, go.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.